Yeah, we just super powerful. Very nice but he hamstring issues. You watch where he comes down
Well, guys, it's 9:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. Just gotta make sure I've got my. Oh, we're already good. Okay. Anyways, we hope you guys are all having a great morning and enjoying your first session. We're very excited to have Ryan Banta back for his acceleration program here. We'll see you later. And so if you haven't seen Ryan yet, he's a phenomenal presenter, brings a ton of energy. He's a coach from St. Louis. He is in the Missouri Hall of Fame. He's been a National Coach of the Year. He's been a State Coach of the Year twice. His accolades just go on and on and on with, so many athletes that have been state champions, nationally ranked, all these great accolades. And so you probably have heard it, if you've been to one of his already, so I won't go into too much detail, but just a phenomenal resource. Excited to hear about his acceleration and just his involvement in so many different events. He's able to coach, he's coaching everything from sprinters all the way to distance runners, and I'm excited to see how he incorporates acceleration into all of those different events. So I'll turn it over to Ryan Banta.
Thank you. All right, so track and field is acceleration for all sports. I mean, the only sport that probably doesn't have any kind of acceleration is golf, right? But you still have acceleration from the top of your swing through. So there's something to be said for that. I'm a terrible golfer, by the way. I'm stubby, so I got no chance. Built like a spark plug. I was meant to play, rugby or wrestling or something, but anyway. So when we look at this, acceleration is one of the things that we can teach, okay? And athletes can get better at it, all right? And if they get better at it, they don't necessarily have to be as fast as their competitors, but yet their times will be faster, okay? And it is one of the things that you can coach up and you can do a lot of, and you can do a lot of days in a row of it if you need to get it done, okay? One of the things that I've talked about in previous talks or in different situations is with acceleration, you can do up to 16 accelerations in a session. Now that's a lot, okay? But if you got guys who play hockey, think about how much they stop, start, and accelerate, right? It's just continuous. Think about in football. How many plays do they play? They play both ways. How often do they put their hand in the dirt, right? It's acceleration, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 times a game. They're accelerating. We're meant to do that. It's also a different set of muscles. It's not, your hamstring's not involved, so you're not risking what you risk at max velocity sprinting. It's a different deal. However, it's really important how you set things up. Do your athletes have a routine that you put them in? Come on in, guys. We got seats up in the front row and whatever, fill them in, okay? Or do they just kind of freestyle it? Don't let them freestyle. That's like the worst thing you can do. They need to have a routine that they have set up. We're going to talk about what that routine looks like so that you can create a consistent experience for your athletes to get better. How do you handle doing block starts for multiple people? That's probably the worst thing ever, besides teaching kids how to do handoffs for the first time, right, is doing blocks. It's like a nightmare, and you get one kid gets one block in 45 minutes. I'm going to show you how to not do that and to get it done in a better way, okay? How often do you accelerate as part of your warm-up? Is that built in? Where do you do that in your warm-up, okay? Where does it show up in practice? Do you do acceleration and max velocity together, or do you try to split them up? By the way, you can't split them up if you're doing max velocity because they have to accelerate before they do max velocity. You can't just throw them down a track like a Super Bowl, okay? Now, the routine is important. This is my daughter during COVID year of 2020. Okay, we can't really see her here. I don't know if we've got a way to turn down the lights a little bit, okay, for these videos or whatnot. Okay, that helps a little bit. Maybe if we did the other way, it'll be better maybe.
There we go.
Yeah, that's better. Oh yeah, that's better. All right, but anyway, here's my daughter's routine. Runner, to your marks. Set, go. Yeah, pretty good, yeah. You know, it's pretty good. Then, you know, she's 11 now. I mean, that's 4 years ago, so you do the math. Little kid, you know, picking her wedgie out of her butt and everything else. Here's what the top people look like. Okay? And this video is a little bit older, and there's some different things going on. And what's interesting is not all elite people are actually good block starters. And some of them, if they would get better at it, they'd be a lot faster. So she's not very good. Okay, that's Lauren Williams. Do you guys remember her? She only ran under 11 seconds from us. And part of that's because of her block start. This is Justin Gatlin, who had one of the best block starts in the world. And I mean, obviously he had steroids and stuff like that, but he also was really, really fast as a 40-year-old man. How often do you watch acceleration from different positions? Do you always stand on one side? Do you stand in the front? Do you stand in the back? Do you have somebody film it? Do you watch it backwards? Do you watch it forwards? How fast do you watch the speed? So the reality is there's some myths about a good block starter. Oh, they got a really good start. They got out really fast and they just don't have speed endurance and they've got run down. You know that's a lie, right? You know the guy who got out or girl that got out really fast and then got run down actually had a bad block start. That's why she got run down. She didn't push far enough. She didn't drive far enough. Her angles weren't correct. She popped up too soon. She's got pretty good frequency. She's got pretty good max velocity, but she's hitting her max velocity at 20 meters, 30 meters, as opposed to carrying it down 40, 50, or elite men, 60 to 80 meters, right? And so like all things being equal, we want our athletes to drive as far down the track as possible without faking it. What's faking it? This is faking it. What am I doing? What have I done at my hips? I've broken at the hips, right? So now I'm not able to use the spinal engine to drive down. And I'm shortening up my stride because I can't cover any ground because I've put myself in this position. Versus being in this position and being able to drive much farther and cover much ground as I'm switching and pushing. Now, if you pay attention to some of these guys, you see the females when they're running the 100-meter dash, and you look at the top of them when they're running, you will also notice that how do you steer out of the blocks can matter. So watch this. That's Shelly Ann Fraser-Price, who, by the way, doesn't run like that anymore, and that's why she's almost at 40 years old and running fast, because she's actually gotten better. Okay, but if you watch this race head on, watch what happens to the American athlete. She's almost what? Right. So all things being equal, what are you doing when you're coming out of the blocks? You're going all the way over here? Are you taking a false step? How do your kids put their feet in the blocks? I'm not talking about where the paddles are. I'm talking about how wide are they in the paddles. Do any of you guys have those Gill fusion blocks with the big paddles? So what they found out is they've done research where they put them like the standard old school ones that like we probably all were in, that were like terrible with this thin of metal. We're standing in the blocks basically like this. This is our hip width in the blocks. First of all, is that athletic? Bro, that's the most unathletic thing ever. Okay. If you go all the way out here though, sumo step, is this athletic? No, right? Your feet are supposed to be what? Shoulders width apart. So guess what they figured out? You get in the blocks and your feet are shoulders width apart, you can escape the blocks a lot better and more efficiently. That's why Gill made those big wide blocks. Now, well, I don't know what your situation is at state. Do they use those or do they use some standard ones? Do they use the wider ones? Okay, good. So whatever Minnesota or the True Team uses, from the True Team, you should probably have kids coming out of those blocks on a regular basis, even if you just have one or two of them towards the end of the season, so kids know how to push out properly, because that's going to make or break the difference in the race. Here's the other thing, though, why I want to share that with you, is if your feet are too narrow, where's your first step going to go? It's going to go out. And then where's your energy gonna go? It's gonna go out. If your feet are too wide, where are your feet going to go? In, right? If an athlete that's, a wide receiver and releases and does this, and then this, they haven't loaded up the leg. They haven't changed the shin angle. The shin angle has to lower, so that means the front foot has to lower. We have to get here, okay? But if we're here, we're gonna step back naturally because we're trying to, the body is trying to problem solve by taking the shin angle from here to there. And that's why you step back. It's kind of the artificially lower so you can push out, okay? So these are things that you're going to see in all things. Now, acceleration on the runway. So you got a long jumper, triple jumper, high jumper, okay? If you got some stupid long jumper, triple jumper that's going like, and then takes off, that's not consistent. So then you never know what that step is gonna do. I hate watching Europeans do that, okay? Some Americans do it too. But I would much rather, again, like a wide receiver, you set yourself up with the same presence and the same shin angle and release. And if you ask Boo Check-Schneider, who's like the jumps guru, and Jeremy Fisher, also a jumps guru, that's what they teach. So we're trying to aim small, miss small. We don't want to create a whole bunch of weird artificial errors that don't need to be in there. And so depending on what you're seeing, again, side, side, front, back, will dictate how you should be handling it. And again, all things being equal, the person who can drive the farthest down the track are the fastest people. So how could you cue this? Talked about this, we talked about sports psychology yesterday, I think in this room actually. So how many were in that talk that heard me talk about the basketball? Okay, so we got about half of you in here. I'm gonna explain it again. Okay, so pretend that acceleration is like trying to spin a basketball on your finger. Okay, so when you first start trying to spin that basketball, what's your hand doing? When you first try to spin it? How's it stroking, for lack of a better word, the basketball? Is it stroking it as fast as it will as the basketball speeds up? The answer, of course, is no. It's a little bit slower, and it's also a little bit more fully handed, right? And then as the basketball increases its spin, your hand spends what? Less and less time on the ball, and it has to tap faster and faster and faster. And I will literally, at practice, get a kid who can spin a basketball and have them do that as I'm explaining this. Then I tell them, your hand is actually your feet on a track, and the surface of the basketball is the surface of the track. So when you come out, it's going to be big, powerful, pretty fast strokes. But then as the ground rapidly, dangerously moves under your feet, then you have to tap, 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 and you're touching it less and less and less. And then of course, if you touch it, just timing it a little bit off, where's the basketball going? It's going off of your finger, or it's slowing down because you can't keep up the pace. That's the exact same thing that you see in a sprint. It's the same neurology. It's the same patterns. Another one, hey, be an airplane, right? Does a pilot pull back on the stick and pull the plane up like into literally like a freaking straight up pop top kind of runway run? No, what's gonna happen to the plane? Especially if it's made by Boeing. I'm in St. Louis and I can say this. Okay? It's gonna do what? It's gonna crash, right? And please don't let that happen to me. I'd be the ultimate troll job by God on me, okay? But the reality is then the plane doesn't actually build up enough speed, right? An airplane builds up, and as it builds up, then the pilot pulls the stick back and accelerates and takes off. It's the same thing as you sprint. So that's another cue that we use. The other one that we use, if I had a broomstick, okay, and I had it earlier, but you take the broomstick, drill it through my head, through my shoulders, through my hips, through my ankles, okay, and I'm right here, we never want the broomstick to break. We want you to sweep the floor. So I have a broom, and the kids take it. And it's funny because sometimes it's the first time a kid has ever touched a broom, because I live in a very rich area, okay, and these kids are very spoiled. But anyway, okay, I'm gonna go to Europe. Okay, but anyway, and we want you to sweep the floor. So the top, the handle of the broomstick is your head, the bushy part is your butt, okay? And we want these things to stay in unison as you sweep the floor and come up. Now, when I tell them I want you to come up in a controlled manner, I tell them that doesn't mean slow. That doesn't mean weak. It just means that you're not going to rush yourself out of the push. You're going to push until the push is done. And almost every kid that you coach will artificially jump out of the push before they should. Okay? Or they're faking it. Okay? And we don't want that either. And here's the thing. Some of those kids won't be able to hit that angle because they're not strong enough. Okay? So we have to make them stronger. That's where the weight room helps, but that's also where a weighted vest really, really helps, or a sled. And then I'll talk about how I break that down for acceleration. Last one, slingshot. If a kid pulls the slingshot back real quick and releases the rock gets out fast. Ooh, the rock got out fast. Ooh, it's in the lead, right? Meanwhile, I'm pulling the slingshot way back before I release it. So that rock, that guy, he got the rock out early. I release my slingshot though. Where's my rock going? Much farther, much faster. That's what the 100 meter is. Literally, guys, that's what it is. That's what you're trying to create. Okay, if you do it the right way. All right. So, let me give you an example of a person that, as a frustrated sprinter, and then early on a frustrated sprint coach, this person would drive me nuts. And whoever her coach is, and I apologize for some reason if the polls eventually watch this video, okay? But this gal is, Sobota is her name, okay? She's all tatted up, she's kind of a crazy gal, right? She's running the indoor European Championships here. She's this girl on the left. Watch what she does, and here's why she drives me nuts. Pay attention. That's not her. See her right there? Okay. Now pay attention. All right, it's about the European Championships. It's an indoor event, but I'm going to replay it again for you. Watch this. Watch again now that you know where she's at. She's towards the left of the screen. Watch what she does. Not there. Should be on the left side of her rock. Watch. What does she do? She pops right away. Right up right away. Her release angle is not, her shin angle is terrible. Okay? And then of course she wins and she's like, oh, she's over dramatic, drives me nuts. That kind of drives me nuts. She's like, okay, great, congratulations. Okay? But she absolutely, in international track and field, has the worst block start. You're like, oh, but she won the 60 at that meet. Congrats to her. What a great job. Okay. The reality is she can only go 50 meters. And then what is everybody who's international track going to do with a better block start? They're going to catch her. She should be beating, you should know who she is. But you don't, most of you, don't know who she is because she has the worst block start for the fastest person on the planet. She's got the award for worst block start for international 100-meter person. She has gone under 11 seconds like twice, okay? But it is really rare because she has such a bad release angle. She takes 3 steps and she's up. And so in Europe, in indoor track, yay, you can win those. But then when it comes to real track that we all pay attention to and the normies who don't care about track at all in the Olympics, she's never going to be on their radar. So she's missing out. Now, you know, for us, what's the message there? Okay, your kid might be really good early. Your kid might be really good over short stuff. Don't let yourself be fooled by the early lead as being a good thing. We got to fix the back end. The reality is most of the problems you see at the end are a thing that happens somewhere with roots. Does that make sense? Jimmy Vicou. Okay, that's his name. He's a French guy. Okay, they did a study that the farther a person could go in 7 steps out of the blocks, the more ground that they could cover in 7 steps correlated to an improved 100-meter time. So as his 7-step distance got better, he got faster. Now people ask me all the time, well, what's a good distance for 7 steps? Dude, I can't give you that data. Why can't I give you that data? Because what is everybody built like? I mean, Swoboda's got a big old booty, right? She's built very, very different than Gabby Thomas. they're also difference in height by about 4 to 5 inches. And most of your height difference typically is where, guys? In your legs, unless you're built like me and I've got a super high, long torso and itty bitty legs. I'm all jacked up, okay? I'm built real weird, okay? So they found this. So how do you use that in practice? We have cones, all right, that we put a name on the good kids that are in our program. And it's depending on how many kids, you got to be careful with this, but you can give them like, you know, a tape measure or a length of yarn for how far they've gone, and then they get to keep that and pull it. You can do all sorts of different things. I like to use a little mini cone, put their name on it, and then we set the mini cone at their PR for 7 steps. And so that gives them a visual as they're driving out. We don't want them to pop up and look at it because they don't really have to, okay? But we want them to work on pushing past that distance for 7 steps. And every time they get a PR on that, we move it out farther. And guess what? They get faster. Toe drag or not toe drag, okay? Asafa Pal did a Nike commercial where he did toe drag. And so then everybody goes, oh crap, the Jamaicans are toe dragging. This must be a new thing that we should be doing. No, he literally did that by accident because it was a filming thing and not a real practice. Now, does he have his toe really low? Yes, but don't ever cue your athletes to drag the toe, because that actually creates drag and then creates a shin angle that goes this way as opposed to this way, okay? So yes, you want the toe to go out low, right? You want it to go out low, and we want it to push, but we don't want it to cycle, okay? So that's the thing we don't want. But we also don't want to drag it across and create increased friction, okay? The other thing that you see is both legs are pushing. Okay, both legs are pushing. It's not one leg pushing and one leg stepping, even though that's what it looks like. Both legs are pushing out of the blocks. Okay, now, post-activation potonation. I talked about this in my sprint talk yesterday, but it bears repeating. Take advantage of that in training. What does that look like? Post-activation potonation is where your neural system goes on overdrive if it's seeing an increased load and then the load is removed. But when it comes to acceleration training, you have to be very careful with that, because if you go from, let's say, dragging a sled that's like 100 pounds, and then you unload it and try to sprint, that's too much. The athlete will become discoordinated. So what we do is we drag a heavy sled. We don't push, by the way, a heavy sled. Don't ever do that with sprinters. You can do that with football players, linemen, that's perfect. Okay, but for a runner, the load needs to be behind, because that's where you're going. You're trying to leave the load and go this way, not have a load in front of you the whole time, because you can't use your arms. Okay, so, and then where I strap over the rib cage, okay, with the sled. I don't strap here, because what ends up happening is they do what? They break here, and I know that you've probably been told the opposite. Do it this way. Strap it here, because it's got more surface area to hold on to. Okay, and then we load up the sled, we go for 30 meters. We have the other group that stands on the other side, so we don't have to do this weird drag it behind and do slow. They just literally turn around and bring it back. The next one we do, we have a 20-pound vest. And then we do it from a combine 3-point start, right? And we take off. And of course, your football guys love it because they're practicing for the combine, right? And then the last one, we do either combine without the vest or we go into a block. And we run that unloaded. Now what they found is with the post-activation potonation is it's 4 to 8 minutes that you get this energized overdrive situation. 1 minute rest for every 10 meters of work. 30 meters, 3 minutes. Then you go and do the other 30 meters again with the vest. 3 minutes, now you're at 8 minutes. And you had a lighter post-activation potonation, and you still have the other one, and now you're unloaded, all out, and you're coordinated. Because you go from the heavy to medium to light, but you're still getting the benefit of the without being discoordinated. Okay, and what do we do with that? We might run 3 of those rotations, which gets you how many accelerations? 3 times 3 is 9, you're done. That's a workout for that day. And then you would lift weights, and you have your warm up and your cool down, and you have all that other stuff. And these have to be all out. Now, when we are unloaded, when we do the PAP, the cone comes out, right? Because you're gonna probably get something out of that. Just like baseball players, when they're in the batting cage, or not the batting cage, sorry, on deck, right? They got the donut that sits on there. Same concept, same idea. Now you're like, how do I get this done in a track meet? Well, how you get it done in a track meet is you have them have a vest. You're not gonna be able to drag a sled, you're not gonna be able to throw a med ball, but they can do a couple of these with the vest on right before they're about to run. Not do a bunch of them with the vest on, but a couple. Take the vest off, start getting into the real blocks, and go. Yes?
What are you loading the sled at?
So usually we start with 20% of their body weight. They don't have to do, you can go heavier once they show you that they can be in the right angles and still move the sled and still push. They're pushing, right? You don't want them to see them do this, right? Once they cannot keep themselves in this angle and push, you light it up. You lighten it up because they're not getting the angles that you want. You want to teach the strength in the angle that we're looking at, okay? We want to push longer. The kid that pops up out of the drive phase at the end is usually going to be the one who wins. I had a girl, Raquel Jacobs. She was my first kid that was a runner-up in the 100-meter dash back in 2008. And at 60 meters, she was in last place. At 70 meters, she was in 6th place. At 80 meters, she was in 4th place. And at the end of the race, she was 2nd. Okay, so she kept moving up as she moved forward, and she could run 11.7 handheld. She's like 11.90 FAT, and she was really fast. She was really strong. She actually looked a lot like Swoboda as well, and she didn't, run. So, okay. Now check this out.
8 paths converge for this chance of glory.
All right. Watch what happens over here. Okay? Watch what happens over there. And tell me what happens wrong.
It's a clean start. Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price got away well, but now Elaine Thompson coming into a running. But look at Price. They're side by side. They're neck and neck. 2 icons, 2 stars. But it's Elaine Thompson-Herah who successfully defends her Olympic title.
What'd you see? What did she do that was a mistake? Did you catch it? Yeah, coach.
It popped up right away.
She did pop up right away, but why did she pop up right away? By the way, that young lady can run 1088 from Switzerland. The white girl. That was the one that made the mistake. Did you catch? And by the way, just because I'm showing. What's that? Yeah, what was wrong with her first step? It was big. Why was it big?
Fell off balance.
She was off balance. Her first step was ocean. Right? And then she's trying to steer to get herself back in the race. So again, that's why we have to be very attentive. What's going on in the back of the block? What's going on in the front of the block? Where'd you put your foot? Okay? Where are you stepping to? You can take these things out. If a kid has a problem, you can put marks, you can put cones. If they're stepping too wide where it's not good. Now, by the way, most sprinters look like this as they're driving. That's not a problem. Okay? The problem is when it keeps them from going straight. They're swiveling like this, but if you look at their center of mass, it's going that direction. She took a step like this, had to pop straight up. So she probably, first of all, she's nervous, okay, because it's her first world championship final, okay? But also, there was definitely something wrong with the placement of her feet. The other thing you have to teach your athletes is you have to teach them to yell at the ref and look at him and say, sir, I need to get up. And the ref's supposed to allow everybody to come up and reset. The other thing, you need to be the last person in the blocks, by the way, okay? You need to be the last person in the blocks. It was kind of funny with Carl Lewis and Ben Johnson in 1988, they're like, and then the ref ordered them in. But the ref usually won't do that because most kids are like, they want to get in the blocks as fast as they possibly can. Now, if you see an error like her, I believe, obviously, if she's made the world final and she's really fast, this was a mistake because there's a lot of anxiety and intensity that you're trying to channel as a gunslinger in the 100. But if I saw her do that step over and over and over again like Swoboda, you got to change it. So don't be so quick to change something when you see it. And kids want feedback all the time. Like, oh, how did that look? Look fine. It might not look fine, but you're not saying anything. I'll go back there, go again. 2 minutes, 3 minutes later, goes again. Okay. How'd that look? Okay. Go again. 3 minutes later, you see it again. Okay. You keep doing this. You keep releasing your foot here. Your angle in the front of the block is wrong. Your hands are in the wrong position. We've got to adjust that. But if you fix the problem when you see it once, you could be chasing a false positive. Do you understand that concept? So we want to be careful with how we adjust. You do need to watch the entire race. Might I suggest, you have somebody else film, obviously, but if you're going to watch the 100, the 200, go up in the stands. Watch them run from the stands, okay? Why? You get to see all of the breakdown of the race. Then when you go back and film it, you can go, that's me. Just making sure that I know I'm a half an hour in, okay? Because I talk too much. All right, but you need to make sure that you know what you're seeing is real, okay? So when you see it with your own eyes, there's things you're gonna catch. Like what I didn't show you, and I don't know how many of you guys were in my talk with where I showed my 2 girls win the 200, went 1-2. The one thing you might have not noticed is one of the girls let the other girl win. They got to about 180 meters and you can see she's about to pass her. You can see she's overcoming her. She kind of goes like this and then goes like this. Because it was more important for her teammate to win because her teammate, I'm not gonna share, but she had a rough year. And then so when she's done, she walks over to me and I'm like, give her a look. And she's like, at least I PR'd, coach. And we both knew what happened because you start to build that coach's eye. You start to slow, I get goosebumps thinking about it because it's kind of cool, you know. But you build that coach's eye, you can slow it down. And so then what you do is you prescribe things. So if they're popping up all the time because they're weak, heavy sled, right? If they're not, sorry guys, that's my diabetic thing that tells me I need to have it on. It's okay, we're gonna be okay. Blood sugar's fine. Okay. But the things you can see then might be perceived a different way. Like, hey, we're doing a really good job driving out of the box, but then you pop right up, right? You can actually take it out 3 or 4 more steps. Let's work on that. We'll do the cone drill. Hey, your first release step is terrible and you're not squatting in the weight room. You're avoiding it. We need to squat, right? You can be prescriptive. Hey, the end of your race isn't good. We need to do some endurance bounding, right? To make you be able, when that basketball starts to spin fast, we need to improve your tap. So we're gonna put that onto the back end of the race. Now, what's cool about that, how do you do that? You can literally have them sprint out of the blocks, run, and then you can have them literally go transition from running to bounding to get them to go pop, 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 because they're not good at that. And those are things you would not necessarily do as every athlete in your program. But if you see that from an athlete where literally they get discoordinated at the end, it's like, oh, you don't have any control when you're in that position in a single point touch. We're gonna get you better at single point touch control. Do you guys understand what I mean by that? Like you're just one point of contact, you're in this position, you're moving really fast, and you're kind of losing it. You're losing your balance. We're gonna make you more balanced by doing that. Use your eyes, let someone else record. I think you guys know that. I've talked about that 7 times now. All right, what's your routine? Is this your routine? I'm gonna tell you my routine. Ooh, that's lit. That's lit, dog. Okay, don't be extra. Don't do that. Have a routine that makes sense. I'm gonna give you our routine. This is gonna help you, I promise you. Okay, did you notice what lane she's in? Okay, so guess what she ain't? She ain't fast. Get the hell out of here. All right? Okay. This is Lemaitre. He was the first white dude to run under 10 seconds. This is, I forget his name. He's a British guy. He's way too strong. He needs to lose weight. He's way too muscled up. He's also a low 10 guy. He's on the British 4x1 all the time. He's a pretty good run. Okay? We want our action before we get in the blocks to simulate what we want them to do coming out of the blocks. So we don't just stand there and pray and, do all this nonsense. We do jump, which literally is like what Noah Lyles, you've seen him do it, right? He explodes up, he does that twice, right? Then we kick, all right? Kick. So we get extension, then we slap. Now you go, why would you do that? You're just beating the hell out of yourself? What they found, you guys remember the show Mythbusters? Okay, so in Mythbusters, they did a thing about sobriety stuff. How can you get a guy sober quicker? Like what are tricks that work to sober people up? Coffee, exercise, all this kind of stuff. Do you know what the number one thing was that improved mental acuity? Slapping the crap out of them. Literally watching Jamie get his whack! It was one of the best episodes ever. And while he was exercising, he fell and then got slid back into the wall. You should look that up if you want to laugh, you're having a bad day. I mean, it makes me cry every day because it's hilarious. But it's true. What they found is, think about massage, right? If you've ever had that, somebody's taking you and going da, 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 on your leg. What's it doing to the tuning of that tissue? It's tuning the tissue up. It's not tuning it down. It's not calming it down. That's why you have to be very careful, by the way, with Theraguns. Your kids should not be doing Theraguns right before they're about to compete. They're probably tuning it up too much and they're getting tight. That's something you do when you're done. Don't do it. That's not a pre-thing. Like foam rolling. You don't foam roll before you're going to go compete. You can foam roll after. Why? Because it's a massage. It's not really meant to help you. It's meant to calm things down, smooth things out. Okay, Theragun will tune it up. It tunes up the strength. But when you're about to come out of the blocks, we want that tune to be tuned up. And so we're awakening the muscles. Now, why do we jump? Little PAP effect right before we're about to get into the blocks. Why do we want to kick? Because we want that idea of we're split, push, right? And it's 2 by 2. And we never are the first person in the blocks. We wait till everybody gets in the blocks. Then we do our jump, our kick, and our slap. Then when you get in the blocks, we don't just step into the blocks like that. We literally go from out far, about 5 meters, and we back into the blocks, okay? Now, where should your hands be? Hands should be a little wider than shoulders width apart. Your kids, naturally, when they first do it, will be here. And I always tell them I don't want walrus paws, I want eagle claws. Eagle claws, not walrus paws. And we want to be able to make sure that we can hold a baton, right, as well. We want them here. We don't want excessive bend in the arms. And we definitely don't want us leaning over the line. Some people lean over we need to lean over the line a little bit. No, you don't. Because what are the strongest muscles in your body? Your legs. If you're leaning over the start line, what have you done to the strongest muscles in your body? You've taken them out. They're no longer a part of it. You want a flat back in the blocks. You don't want a curved back. Some kids, spinally can't do that per se, but that's what you want. But you want those eagle claws, not walrus paws. You don't want the excessive bend. You don't want the lean. All 4 points that are touching the ground, both legs, both arms, should have some feel of an isometric contraction. Do you know what I mean by that? So that way you're kind of pushing from everything at once. Ben Johnson had an extreme version of that. He jumped out of the block and then everybody tried to repeat it and they couldn't. But Ben Johnson also could squat 600 plus pounds and he did it right before the Olympic final and he was drugged out of his mind like Secretariat in the 1970s. Okay, so a little different routine. But you'll watch all of my kids do that routine. Here we go.
Race model 150, driving out, second cone is for transition. When we swing around the turn, that will be for the flowing out from tight, hanging into the curve to flowing to the outside.
3 of these girls were all
Four set
state
of
ones
cones
and
will
average kids. You'll figure that out.
be cueing an A run on the fitness to the finish.
All right, let's watch it again.
Race model 150, driving out, second cone is for transition. When we swing around the turn, that will be for the flowing out from tight, hanging
So
into the
kick,
curve
kick,
to
so
flowing
that makes
to
me
the
mad.
outside. The 4 set of
They
cones
did the
will
other
be
one. Right?
cueing
They all did it
A
at the
run.
exact same time. They're all getting the blocks at the exact same time. And you see the cones that are there too? So we're trying to get them to stretch that. It's the beginning of the year, okay? It's really cold. It's the first week of practice. Okay, so they're not going to get to their PR cone. It's just not going to happen. Okay, but we have them there so they know where they're supposed to drive to before they come up in transition. Okay? They go through that routine. They all push out. 3 of the 4 girls, really talented kids. Okay, and you notice their angle of release is pretty good, right? And that was an all-state relay. It was a 4x1 all-state relay, all those girls. So you want to have that routine so that they know what to do, and every kid in your program knows what to do. Because if they don't know what to do, they're going to do what? Yeah, coach?
Just quicker. What's the logic behind like the back end of the blocks? Like why do you do that?
Because you want to spring load, right? You want to have them feel the compression of the muscles. You're reversing the action that they're going to do when they come out. So you're getting that feeling of like coiling up, pulling back, you know. So there's a little mental to it, but the problem is what ends up happening is we want them to be able to confidently get into the blocks. If they get into the blocks like this, right? It's always an awkward thing and it doesn't feel right. It's like not the proper way to enter that thing. It's very awkward. So we would rather have them feel more confident by entering it in where it feels more natural to pull in. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because when you're going here, I mean, just try to,
Yeah.
right? Think about what that feels like on your knees. For me, it's a problem. I might not walk. Okay, so there's this weird, awkward load. So what we're trying to do is we're loading up the muscles. We're creating that isometric contraction. We're pulling into the blocks. So part of it's mental. Part of it is the awkwardness that I don't want them doing this with their feet and wiggling. Yeah. Good question. All right, so do you know which foot? Anybody know? Come up, coach. Yeah, I'm gonna push you, bro. All right, turn around. Okay, stand here with your feet kind of equal together. All right, the Vikings are not very good. Okay, come back. All right, come back. Come back. All right. Curry Puckett wasn't as good as the guy said he was. Okay, come back. All right, one more time. All right.
What's he doing right there? What kind of things,
Okay, so each time he stepped what?
Right.
Right foot first. Okay? Thank you, coach. I appreciate it very much, and I don't mean those things I said. I'm just trying to distract you to see if I can get it. What that means is this leg that stays back is the leg that's going to want to stay back pushing out of the blocks. That is your push leg. That's the leg that goes up front. Okay? The leg that steps out is your natural stumble reflex leg. That's the leg that wants to come out of the block, natural stumble reflex. That's the leg that goes back. Now, does it change over time? 100% it does. Here's the thing though. If you catch it at the end of the year, and you're like, oh crap, they've got this wrong. Do you fix it?
No.
No. You dance with the boy that brought you. Okay? I coach girls. All right? It's American. Date who you want as long as it's eligible and it's human and it's adult. We're good, okay? All right. So, but anyway, you know, don't change it then. But early on, we want to narrow all these mistakes down. We want to fix these things when we see it. Now, sometimes he's very much that, right? He's, oh, this is my leg, you know? But sometimes they mix it up, okay? So then what arm do they fold over the other? Okay, if it's this arm, this is the push leg, this is the push arm. This thumb, same thing. Okay, this is the strong leg, right? The strong hand. I'm left-handed. My left leg. I like to post up. I want to shoot with that hand. Okay, when I do that, if I punch you, I'm hooking you with this. You know, this leg is the quick one. This is the one I would give you the jab with. Okay, doesn't always work that way, but often it does. Okay, so that's how you figure that out. All right, and over time, they might tweak, they might change, they might adjust, okay? But that's where we go, okay? So interestingly enough, this would be confusing, right? Because she's got this arm over this, the thumb's a different one, and it's leg. So 2 out of 3, probably gonna be right leg, right? Or is it gonna be left, okay? Probably right, maybe. No, it's left. Yeah, it's left, left, right. Okay, so best 2 out of 3, right? Okay, how do you set it up? Basic. This is basic. This is the beginning. Okay, you take the front of the block, it's 1 shoe length. From the front of the block to the painted line. Then the first paddle is 1 shoe length from the front of the block to the paddle. Could be 2 shoe lengths if you want to do it that way. The back paddle is 2 shoe lengths back from the front of the paddle. So you go 1, 1, 2. Or 1, 2, 3, depending on how you want to teach it to them. Okay? And kids will inevitably screw it up all the time. All right? Where should you put the paddles at? You put the paddles in the middle to begin. If they're adjustable, put them in the middle. Don't put them super low, don't put them super high. Put them in the middle because you can standardize the teaching. Now, if they're taller, does some of this change? Yes. If they have an extraordinary long truncanter, you're gonna probably have to open it up a little bit. How do you know when to do that? You can see it. Do they look too bunched? Are they popping up too straight? Sky Lee, a really good athlete that we had to actually move her blocks, even though she's not that tall, artificially back because she's so freaking fast, she's getting to the hurdle too soon. So we actually added like a third of a meter to her race just so she could get to the hurdle in an open position. Okay? So you adjust things like this as you will. This girl here, she's a stud, heptathlete, really won the first USA ATF championship in the women's decathlon. Okay? Not the, you know, you're like, wait, no, they don't do the dip, but they did it, and she won the first one. Okay? Because she can pole vault, she can throw the discus, she can throw the shot, she can hurdle, and she can sprint. She's awesome. And you see the angles, right? Pretty good stuff, right? Straight on, you see that line? And that's the thing too. Depending on who they are, this line might be here, 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 but if they're doing this, that's a good thing, right? If you see that position, that's a good thing. All right, oh, sorry. The other thing you want to think about is, we talked about this in one of my talks, but this is the things they're saying when they get into the blocks. Breathe, so when they say set, you breathe, and you hold your core. Because you have this conscientious tension, what does that do for you? It creates a stiffer thing, which is going to be able to direct what? Energy what? In one way, right? Then when the gun goes, you breathe out and push out. You're reacting to the gun, you're not looking at them. I always tell kids all the time, they like look over, like, don't look at me. You know, just to be funny, but I'm serious. Your eyes are down, not that, like you're not doing this, because you do this, where's your body gonna go? It's gonna go up. Get your freaking head down. Don't look at me. And then it's push, push, push. And then I talked about this in my other talk, but it's build, build, build. So breathe, react, push, 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 build, build, build. Build. So we're here, pretending I'm actually coming out of the blocks, right? And now we're up, right? We don't go, right? We don't go down again. Don't ever go back down. Tyson Gay did that. You do that all the time. You come up and then you go back down again. Well, now you screwed everything up. Now your start's not going to be good. You're not going to push. It's done. You just hope you're fast enough to make it through without good technique. Target, when you're targeting, so if I'm running here, I'm looking right down at the middle metal between the doors. That's my target, so I can run straight at it. And then finish, we're going past the line. The line is not the finish line. It's always 5 meters farther. If a kid doesn't pass through the line, I am pissed. If they don't do it in practice, where they like start to slow down, I make them go back 50 meters and I make them run through again. Okay? Even if they're not running fast, I make them do it again. And if they keep doing it, then they sit out and we do an extra interval. I never do that, but occasionally the kid's being obnoxious, you know, sometimes you gotta lay the line. All right, so we're gonna talk about that. Always last in the blocks, push in, 4 points of pressure, feet fully on the pads. That's the thing people mess up all the time, okay? So, if this is the pad, you don't want your foot half on, half off. It needs to be fully on. Now, some people like to play with things and put it way up here. Don't do that. All right, that's weird. All right, put it right there. Your toes will be touching the track, right? But you're not doing this. Because if you do this, you don't have anything engaged. You can't push fully. Here you can push fully. Here you cannot. And if you're here, again, it's going to want to take you that way. If you're here, it's going to want to take you that way. Opposite, equal opposite. You get what I'm saying? And so this release angle will be here. But if you're here, it's going to be there. You get that? You don't want that. Okay? We talked about eagle claws. We talked about the arm bend. Roll up slowly. That's another thing. Don't be like the person that goes up when they say set. Okay? We want to come up nice and controlled. Okay? Because here's the deal. The starter's going to hold you. Now, another thing I do to work on this is I do different cadences. I use my voice in different ways. I'll go set. They barely hear me, right? And I go set. And I pause. I'll go set. Set. All right, and why am I changing it up? What we don't want them to do. We don't want them to false start, right? So at the end of my warm-ups, we do, like we talked about, long warm-up. We have a bunch of accelerations. Everybody does it. Everybody gets down on the turf, if we're on the turf. Everybody. Lineman thrower types, to skinny little distance kids. And you're like, why would you teach your distance kid how to come out of the blocks? They need to know how to react to the gun, 100%. And what if they need to lead off your 4x4? Okay, and you're like, oh, but I'm just gonna have them stand there. Don't have them stand there, right? Don't do that. Teach them how to come out of the blocks so they know how to do it and they can accelerate the right way and the right pattern for the 400. Okay, now, of course, if it's at the end of the year and you make that move, then don't put them in the block. You don't want to do that. But if you're planning on them running the 4x4 and they might have to lead off, they need to know how to do it. Okay. No unnecessary gyrations or movements. If we have a false start at the end of my warm-up, right, where we're doing these accelerations and stuff, everybody does push-ups. So it teaches the kids not to what? Not to false start. And thankfully, I haven't had that happen in a really, really long time because we're training a lot of that without having to ever get in a block. We're training proper weight, proper response, holding in a funky, uncomfortable position. And because they're doing that every day in practice at the end of our warm-up, they have, over time accumulated a lot of response. Waiting and responding, reacting, pushing, getting out of that position, coming off the ground, feeling good on their arms, okay? We already talked about that. What's now? When we're pushing, I tell them, I want you to punch the ground and push the ground behind you so hard that Isaac Newton gets a headache. I want you to be aggressive and angry. Now, I don't want that when we're upright running. That's different. Okay, but when we're pushing hard and fast. We're not doing this like, tee, 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 tee. I always tell them, because I coach girls, I'm like, I am woman, hear me roar. I want you to be aggressive, not this dainty little person. We're out here being powerful and strong.
How many accelerations do you do at the end of your warm-ups?
It's usually 4. Usually 4. Okay, how do we handle large groups? We know he was right leg stumble. Okay, so guess what? He's left leg dominant. We put him on the left side of the track. Okay, so him and his compatriots are in lanes 1 through 4. Okay, then how tall are you, coach?
5'10".
5'10". All right, I'm 5'8.5". You know that a half inch matters. All right, it's mostly head, but whatever. All right, people are like, you're not that tall. I'm like, dude, you forget. I got this huge crane. All right, but anyway, I would be considered below average height for a guy. So I'm going to be in lanes 1 and 2, even though I'm left leg dominant and right leg stumble like him. But then, anybody in here 6 foot tall? Anybody? Okay, congratulations, congrats. You guys would be in lanes 3 and 4. Okay, now why do I do that? Why do I have left leg dominant 1, 2, 3, and 4, right leg dominant in 5, 6, 7, 8, and then in lanes 1 and 2 and 5 and 6, got the shorties, and in lanes 3 and 4 and 7 and 8, I got the tall foot. Yes. So the kids are not flipping the blocks, so you're getting through it faster. They don't have to adjust it as much. They might adjust 1 pedal, not 2. They might adjust only an inch or 2. They're not switching the blocks, and that gets annoying. And it accumulates over time. If you learn anything from me as a coach, please, for the love of God, do this. Now, girls and guys need to be separated. I'm all for equality. I'm all for equity, okay? But, the reality is boys tend to be what? Taller, okay? And they tend to be annoying, in a different way than girls are, okay? And so because they're taller, they're going to be in a different situation. All right? So if that's the situation, then it's guys through 5, 6, 7, 8, girls through 1 through 4, left leg dominant 1, 2, right, for the girls, right leg dominant 3, 4, shorties in lane 3 and 1, talls in lanes 2 and 4. Does that make sense? Do you guys get what I'm saying? But whatever you do, they need to know. They need to know what the lines are. They need to know where they're supposed to go. Now, the truth is, there's a lot more people that are right dominant, right people, than there are left dominant. So you have to make some decisions about that. But that'll dictate your team. You're like, well, what hand are you guys? And then you can kind of figure it out. Okay? This is really good to help out. All right. Acceleration for other events. Guess what? Watch what Carl Lewis does. Right into it, right? Same action, same drive, same push. Now we're running up tall. Not a bunch of unnecessary movement, right? He's pushing really strong off that leg and jumping in. Okay. Javelin. Watch. Eventually. Okay. See that? Leaning forward, pushing. Same thing. Right? So all of this is pretty similar. Right into it. Same thing. Triple jump. Boom. Comes up. This is probably the most absurd performance in history of track and field. I mean, it's 60 plus feet with triple jump. This old guy who looks like Mr. Bean. Jumping. It's absurd. Okay. Pole vault. You guys know this guy. An American competing for somebody else. Watch the different angle. I think they show the different angle here after he does it. Yeah. Come on. Okay. Here we go. Okay, and then he's opening up. 8-foot high jumper. Look at that. Same thing, right? There's a lot of driving. And of course, you kind of have to if you're going to go 8 feet, right? You're going to need an approach. And that's also a preposterous record, okay? Which is yet to be broken. All right, drills that you can do. Okay, simple. This is a simple one. All right. Up against the wall, know how to do that. You can reverse it and push off the wall to create a good shin angle to learn how to push off that back leg and dip out hard. Switching it. I do these all the time. I'll go 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And we'll do that. And we'll follow that up with medicine ball tosses, and that's what you're seeing there, right? And so even if you're inside, because it's Minnesota and it's going to be negative 40 degrees tonight, you know, you can still get this done inside. And this is something you can do. You can climb, right? All of this stuff is great. Push, push, push. Climbing is a run. So all that stuff is good. All right, and get them used to doing that. Got acceleration games over here, so we can do this stuff in the hallways. I talked about this before. Walking and run, scramble and run, come out of a push-up and run, right? We have music. When we do the dance one, I have music, and they kind of like walk up like it's an old Soul Train, you know, and they got the dance line, and then they take off. We do all that kind of stuff. We play a lot of appropriate music, but, you know, the kids love that. They really, really enjoy that. And so there's all these different kind of things that you can just teach how to get out, teach how to react, teach how to accelerate. We'll do another one where they lean out really far. I'll show you that one here in a second. These are different types of workouts. You might want to take a picture of this, where we're combining different methods on how to do this. Can you teach them how to react? Slap toes, slap ankles, rebound running, rapid ankle running. So it's like a theme. Hey, we're doing a theme. We're doing a reaction series. Hey, we're bounding out. We're accelerating, we're bounding, and then we're sprinting out. Step over and hit means like hey, that's what that means. So it's drive, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, bound, and then sprint out. Okay? So you can combine all these different methods. So if you see a kid that really stinks at transitioning, you might do that one. If you see a kid who can't push out of the blocks, you do that one. If a kid can't react, you do that one. If a kid just needs general volume and accelerating, you do that one. Each one of these has a different purpose depending on what you're seeing from your athlete.
Can you talk about the reaction ones real quick?
Yeah, for sure. What's up?
Just what they are.
Oh, so like trying to catch a ball when it's dropped.
Okay.
Teammate does this, you try to catch the ball, right? Hand slappers, literally playing a game of slap. You know, can you react? You know, and each person takes turn. Now we don't have them slap each other's face. Toe steppers, you know, they take their shoes off and try to touch each other's toes. They stand there and they go, try to get each other's toes. Same thing for ankle. Rebound running is like, could be a bunch of different things. It could be dribbling. It could be straight leg bounds, whatever you want from that. High rebound steps, that's like Super Mario Brothers, right? High hops, stuff like that. So these are all those types of things that you can do, okay? All right. So here's dancing, okay? Dance, dance, twist, 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 and we sprint out. This is fall and sprint. We have them hold, and then when they feel like they're about to fall, they sprint out. All right, and these again are things you can do in the hallway, okay? With all your athletes. Now with this, I usually have kids do this instead of me holding a young lady by their hips. Okay, but sometimes, you know, like the last person is gonna have to do that. You can also hold against them and they push against you. They put their, and they run, they push, 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 push. And then as you feel them accelerate, you step to the side and they go. You guys have probably done that before. Some of these are not very inventive. This one I love, but you really gotta hold them because they won't want to lean out. Like, no, don't bend over, keep your back flat, and then you release them like that so they can take off and go. And again, all this stuff can be done inside. I was a little fatter back then. Arm action, fire the hands, set, go, and then land. Set, go. Okay. This one's awesome.
And go.
Throw the medicine ball, chuck it, sprint.
Yes, perfect.
All right.
Very
so
good.
these are things that make it fun too, especially when you're not allowed to do track and field practice. I'm not doing track and field practice. What's that? I'm on the turf, throwing a medicine ball, right? You got to figure out how to, you know, play with your administration of the rules. Hurdle push. So if you don't have a bunch of sleds, you can do that. Okay, depending on if you have weighted hurdles, even better, right? It's one of the, so every kid has a hurdle, right? So they don't have to have a sled, and they just walk over the hurdle and push. Okay, then if you do have this, and I don't know why he's got a t-shirt around him, that's kind of weird, all right? But you'll notice one of the cues I want you guys to see here, you notice how the line is taut? Don't let them start pulling until the line gets taut. Because what happens is you have this first step with no load, then a second step that jerks the hell out of them and you can pull a muscle, especially with heavy weight. Don't do that. Okay, make sure that the line is taut. All right, he's got pretty good angles, and his t-shirt fell because he shouldn't have had that there. I don't know what he's doing. All right, here's the bullet belt. I talked about this yesterday. This is a cheap product, but an awesome one. Okay, so we have them pull against us. This is for like the transition phase from drive to upright running. And then we release, and then they upright run. So you have them resist against you, and then we allow them to take advantage of the slingshot. If somebody doesn't do a good job in the middle of that transition, you could do drop sprints. Lean out, step and sprint. Okay, and that also helps you create that angle, right? People are like, they're gonna tear their Achilles. No, they're not. This is super safe. Because think about it, they're actually pushing off the bench. See that? Did you see it? They're pushing off the bench before they drop. And then they react off the ground. Two good things you want. Let's watch that again. This is one of my favorites to do. By the way, if you're doing that and you put it on the track, you better make sure there's people sitting on that bench because it will slip out. Okay? All right. Football guys, probably seen this stuff. All right? We roll over and we sprint out. And sprint. Okay? Not hard to do, right? Side angle. And you're like, why would I do this for track? Why not? Why not mix it up? Make it fun. Just keep it interesting. And if you want football guys to come out, or soccer girls, or softball girls, these are things that, hey, we're gonna get you off the base better. We're gonna teach you how to dig out and get off the base better at an angle. We're gonna honor your main sport until your sport becomes their main sport. Okay, jump and bound out, right? So from a standing start, we jump and then sprint out. Bound out of the blocks. Okay, I know these things seem silly, but we can bound out of the blocks and sprint out. These are things, like if they don't get a good split, this helps teach the split. Then this helps teach the push and pop. Throw the med ball from a chest pass and sprint out. Roll back, roll forward, chest pass, sprint out. Roll backwards, roll forward, chest pass, catch yourself in a push-up position, sprint out. And then this is the best to ever do it. Hold on. Did you catch it? Now that you know where he's at, watch it. He's in the middle of the trip. Watch this. Ooh, sorry. Let me go back. My bad. It'll start where it needs to now. Here we go. Watch him. Push, 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 push. Up, 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 up. Pop, 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 pop. Did you see it? Okay. Like, Asaf Pal is a choke artist, but he is the best block starter in the history of mankind. Okay? He doesn't run well in championships, but that has nothing to do with the fact that he is by far, 972 by the way, okay, the best block starter ever. That is perfection. That's what you want to see. All right, guys. You guys got any questions? I'll answer them now, and then I've got my weight room session, I think, across the hall. What do you guys got? Yeah, Coach.
Have you ever used the stand-up and wave blocks for younger kids that aren't quite as strong?
I don't like them because they're not going to use them in international competition. I know back in the day they kind of used them for hurdles. Like, if they can't get into a normal block, then don't put them in a block yet. If they're a 7th grader, like middle school kid helping you out, then we just don't do that until they get to the strength to do it. Lateef Thomas, RIP, who used to speak at a lot of these conferences, he just wouldn't put kids into blocks if they weren't ready, you know. But I try to teach them right away. I don't like the Moyo blocks because it's, again, you're putting them in this kind of position as to this position, which is naturally what we want to be as athletes. What else?
How do you get your kids to feel comfortable pushing out the both feet out of the box?
It's just, I just tell them, like, look, it's a push, you're pushing both things simultaneously. And you tell them your front foot's not going to leave at the same time, but it is going to push at the same time. You know, don't be afraid of it. You're going to, because everything is this just lurching forward, all of us at one time. You know, and again, if they're having a hard time with that, where are their hips at? Right? If their hips are too high, they're going to do this. If their hips are too low, they're going to do that, right? So it's about adjusting. One of the things I do is I'll tell them if their hips don't get high enough and they have a big problem with that, which limits their ability to push out with both legs, I tell them I'll put it, if it's a girl, I'll put a stick out, you know, but if it's a guy, I just put my hand out. I go, all right, hit my hand. And they come up, okay, good, back down, hit my hand. All right, good, go back down, right? And then once they get into that position, it's way easier for them to push with both legs out of the blocks. Yes?
What's your pre-meet day, prep day look like? Early season versus late season?
So early season, we're not doing the length of things that we might do late. We're doing maybe, though, a little bit more of it. Handoffs are usually a part of pre-meet every time, and that's max velocity sprinting. We do that at the beginning. The second thing we would do is block starts. Third thing we would do is their events. So if they're trying to do run-throughs, they're trying to get to the throw ring, whatever it may be. Okay, because the max velocity running is something that requires acceleration. But then if we just accelerate, now we're not doing max V anymore. And then when we're doing our technical stuff, most of the time they do a technical event, they're coming to the technical event fatigued anyway. So you can do a little bit of that. But I never do a ton. 3 block starts, that's it. 4 handoffs, that's it. Okay? If they do other events and I'm working with different things, they come to me later. Sometimes my kids will run, let's say, 2 to 3 150s at 70%, and we call it Pavlov. Our pre-meet day, we call it Pavlov's day. So we're trying to ring the bell, trying to salivate, we're trying to get ready, but we're not trying to fatigue. You know, we're trying to get primed, not fatigued for the next day's competition. And the problem is, you know how it is, kids will go over there if you're not watching them, and they'll do a ton of that. So where do I do my block starts? If I'm doing handoffs, and these kids are supposed to do block starts, we all do it in the same spot, right? And they grab their blocks and move with me as we move around for handoffs. You know, and they'll just go the opposite direction on the track if it's at a place where they can't do a start that way. And if they're doing their 200 start and we're at the, you know, second exchange to third exchange in the 4x1 or first to second in the 4x2, then we'll do curve starts. You know, if we're at the last exchange, we'll do straightaways. If we're at the first exchange, we'll do straightaways. You know, and that's your 100 start. And we have our hurdles marks set up on both sides of the track so that we can do that. If we're doing block starts with the hurdles. Okay?
So your kids that don't have field events,
Yeah.
will do 3 block starts and then 3 150s at 7.
Yeah, and I mean a 45-minute warm up and maybe some core and a cool down, and then that's it.
Yeah, after that.
Yeah, and they go home. But the thing is, if you guys are going Thursday, Friday, or Fridays, and you're never going Saturdays, you're going to have to get some work done on a pre-meet day. If you have a middle of the week meet, then you're going to have to do some work after that meet. And that would be a day. If you're doing a post-meet workout the next day, then that would be a day I would do my tempo. You know, because you can do that slower and then build into it as they kind of get loose and they're not as sore. So that's how I would handle that. Other questions? We good? You sure? All right. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it.